as much as I enjoy the Thorn trilogy, I think that aspects of the 40-year trilogy were done just a little bit better. I don't know. I'd have to make a whole video kind of ranking and going more into the different timelines. I mean, we all know the Halloween timelines, but I don't know. I feel like sort of there should be sort of their own video for that.
Hey freaks and friends, welcome to day 28 of the Dirty One Days of October. The daily content continues with the 45 years of Halloween celebration. Today we are going to be looking back, now that we are done with the reviews. We're going to take a look at the different timelines in the franchise, and we're going to be ranking those bad boys. Let's go. Make sure to stab that subscribe button and slash that bell icon so you don't miss out on this daily Halloween content all through the month of October. This particular video I did kind of foreshadow last year, not really realizing what I was going to do completely, but I had a pretty good feeling that I was going to do something big this year for the 45 years of Halloween. But the timelines are one of the things that we all talk about, one of the things we all know about pretty well in the Halloween franchise, and there's just so damn many to choose from. You have more or less 4 basic timelines that you could follow, but if you look at them a certain way, you can break those down into even smaller timelines. And what I did is I rounded up to 8 different timelines, so I doubled that. And if you take something like Halloween 3 or the first Halloween, you could look at those as their own isolated sort of timelines. I'm actually going to be removing that from the ranking here because I figure ranking one film's timeline against more than one film's timeline, it's not quite a fair fight. So Halloween 3's standalone universe and John Carpenter's Halloween as its own thing, those are not going to be included on this list, otherwise I would have been doing 10 timelines. Coming in at number 8, we have what I call the Dangertainment timeline, which will be Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Resurrection. This one, it just kind of takes away... I talked about it in the Halloween Resurrection review, where that film, in just about everything that it does, even if it's a fun time, a shitty fun time, it takes away the great ending that H2O had going on for it, and sort of tarnishes my feeling toward that film also. It's not real, it can't hurt you, but it's still there. The Dangertainment timeline, kind of the bottom of the barrel. Don't hate it, just not a fan of it. Coming in at number 7, we have the departure that is the Rob Zombie timeline. This is its own universe, and I really do enjoy both of those films, so it feels weird to have the Rob Zombie timeline in a lower spot. It's just when you compare those two films to the other films, they just kind of... it makes it harder for me to want to place this one higher, but I enjoy the story and the continuity there. I mean, even if it is a stark departure from the original run of the series, I think it's still a pretty damn solid effort. It's just a few more that I think flow a little bit better than this one. Coming in at number 6, this one might be just a little bit controversial, we'll see. This is the one that I call the H10 timeline, which is basically Halloween, Halloween 2, and Halloween 4. Just kind of leaving with the cliffhanger ending that Halloween 4 had, not having to worry about the 2 films that came after it. I think sort of leaving that as a to be continued, the cycle is going to repeat itself. It's a generational sort of curse. I think that really makes the, that's what makes the ending of Halloween 4 really work for me, and that's where I feel that Halloween 4 is the strongest when you view it in that regard. And I feel like sort of my explanation into the timelines might help to justify my rankings and certain thoughts on some of these films, especially ones that I may sound sour on, but I don't know, something about the H10 timeline is just pretty damn satisfying. Again, there's that fear of history repeating itself that I think makes this one not just a foreshadower for the series itself, but just a damn eerie tale, honestly. So H10, number 6. Coming in at number 5, we have the H40 timeline, which the way I look at that one is going to be Halloween and Halloween. Easy enough. But to just kind of look at those two as sort of a one and done type of thing, just sort of combine them. Not really a one and done, but you know what I mean. To sort of put those two together as the only events that happened, I think gives the 2018 film a bit more of a punch there. I think it makes it a lot more of a better film if it does stand on its own. And I enjoyed the shit out of the David Gordon Green trilogy. I obviously haven't mentioned the trilogy as its own timeline yet, but I think something about having the 2018 film and the 78 film being the only two events that happened sort of makes the events of 2018 feel a lot more significant to the grand scheme of things. Where when you add it to the other timeline, when you look at it as a trilogy there, it does something a little bit different and makes this one not feel as... it takes away the oomph I feel that this one has on its own. And this is just a damn solid little timeline. The way that this one ends, you could actually almost buy into the idea that, okay, so they are kind of repeating that original ending where Myers sort of disappears into the ether. Is he going to burn to death? Is he going to die from smoke inhalation? Or is he going to find some way to be out there once again? And you're just left not knowing. That's pretty cool. Coming in at number 4, this is going to be the Thorn trilogy. And this one kind of hurt to put this low. I wanted to put it higher, but I had a little bit of reason will prevail going on there. Nostalgia. And it's not nostalgia for 4 and 5 as much as it is for Halloween 6. I think that this timeline really does work only if you have Halloween 6 in the picture there. Sure, Halloween 5 is sort of the integral stepping stone between Halloween 4 and Halloween 6, but it's really the events of Halloween 6 that, again, sort of make this whole thing its own thing. I mean, there's a reason why we call it the damn Thorn trilogy. We get the tattoo image in Halloween 5, but we don't hear at all what the fuck it is until 6. It's one of the timelines that I feel like everybody wants to go back to. It's the one we all like to talk about. It was the first big timeline that we all sort of got invested in there. And it's just where all the magic is, really, You got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. That's a pretty solid lineup. You don't have eyeballs growing back. You don't have heads coming off and being swapped out with somebody else's clothes. It's just fucking fun, stupid. It has a cool way to sort of explain why Michael is the way that he is. I get if somebody doesn't like that, but I think the way they explain it, or try to explain it, is pretty cool. Let's not rant about that too much, let's move on. Coming in at number 3, this is what I feel is called the Haddonfield timeline, and that's going to be Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. I don't know if it's just because I'm still coming off that high of revisiting these films recently, especially the David Gordon Green trilogy. What makes this one stronger is just how much it strays away from the way the other timelines all have a sort of throughway consistency. Even if this one does sort of repeat some beats that were in the other ones, it sort of retunes it into something else. And just the chances that this one takes and sort of the film to film difference, like that, this is probably the most diverse timeline. And for that, it definitely and for that diversity in sort of its storytelling, I feel that it definitely more than earns its spot here. Ask me in a year, this could be higher. Ask me tomorrow, it could probably be higher too. Maybe it could go lower, but right now, the Haddonfield timeline, it's right here at number 3. You gotta learn to move on, guys. Coming in at number 2, we have the 20-year timeline, which is going to be Halloween, Halloween 2, and Halloween H2O. This is the time where I find H2O works the best. You guys know when I was talking about it in the H2O review, this movie has probably the best ending in the whole fucking series. To take that away with Resurrection, slaps this movie in the face and makes me love it less. You see what you do, Resurrection? You ruin shit. You're alright, though. But, no, seriously, this timeline is, I think, the most believable in terms of Laurie Strode's trauma, and sort of the way she has to cope with that and come to terms with it and ultimately overcomes it. It's just a perfect little arc for her as a character. Even if this is a timeline that I don't care to watch as much, I will say from a narrative standpoint, this is one of the biggest bangers in the timeline sort of conversation there. So the H2O timeline, that fucker's up here at number 2. Coming in at number 1, the best timeline for my money, the night he came home. Halloween and Halloween 2. We've all had the conversation to death that this is the ultimate double feature in the franchise, one of the ultimate double features in horror more broadly. This is just a damn solid double outing. It feels like they were made at the same time. If you look closely, you can tell that they weren't, as there's some obvious visual telltales there. But if you look at it, the consistency of the crew and the filmmakers that were involved with these two films, they found a way to make two films that were made 3 years apart, 45 years ago and 42 years ago. They were able to take those and make them feel like they happened in the same night. And this is sort of giving them credit in the way that they didn't have the internet. People probably weren't rewatching movies like we do now. I wasn't really alive back then, so I'm not sure exactly how that all was able to work out. But they did enough to really make you feel like, yeah, 3 years later, no, we're still in the same night. Don't worry about the time gap. It's still the same night, don't you worry. It just works on every front, and it tells a complete story, even if I feel that the first film on its own can be a complete story. That's sort of the purest part of my fandom there. But looking at it in terms of the franchise, which we all know and love, this is almost the perfect story. The monster comes, the monster dies. It almost has the perfect universal monster type of feel to it. Again, with Dr. Loomis ultimately destroying Michael Myers at the end of Halloween 2. If you look at that as the ending for that story, it's a perfect cap. It's like, the first movie was just so damn great, they had to make a second one just to wrap it up so that nobody could ever go back and touch it. If you just looked at Halloween 1 and 2 as being the only two that had been made, I think we would still be having the conversation about just how great those two are. And with that said, I am fairly mixed on how I feel about Halloween 2 as a film. But it has one of those endings that I think narratively it helps to sell this as a double feature and makes this the best timeline in the franchise for my money. That was my thoughts on the Halloween timelines, guys. The way I rank them, let me know how you guys would rank the timelines down there. Do you feel like I included too many different timeline options? Did I overcomplicate it for myself? I probably did, but that's what I like to do. Just let me know what you guys think. How would you put them? Be sure to play with the icons down there and hit that little bell so you don't miss out on the remaining days of the 31 Days of October. I will see you guys tomorrow.